off. My name is Maria Mateo. I am the Learning and Development Manager for ABM. I specifically work with our leadership development team. That's really my area of focus the past few years, where I help facilitate and run our leadership development courses for our management level staff and members. My primary focus, I want to say the last couple of months, have been mentorship and coaching. So we're focusing a lot on those types of leadership courses for our staff. I've been with ABM for a pretty long time, considering how long folks stay in companies these days. I've been with ABM for 15 years in November. And I get asked a lot, wow, that's such a long time, that's such a long time. And I say, yes, it is. And I've enjoyed every day of it, honestly. You get stressed, of course, because what role doesn't have that? But I am surrounded by incredible people who have as much passion for the work that they do as I have for the work I do. We support each other. There's nothing that if Larry called me, right after this call and said, I need your help, I would stop what I was doing and support him, because that's just how we are here. So that's my spiel. Larry?
Thanks, Maria. So I am, my name's Larry Pestana. I am a Regional Operations Director. I'm based out of Boston. So I run about $60 million worth of business for ABM on the B&I side. So my territory is all of New England and Upstate New York branch. I've been with ABM for a little over 9 years now. Started in New York City, originally from Westchester, obviously went to Oneonta, graduated in 2011, and started on the finance side with a gentleman named Alex Tarazi, who was our old controller, great guy, great mentor. Worked very closely with him and Dan Harley. Dan Harley is still working for us. He's a director now on the corporate side. He taught me a lot and really set the stage for me for success. From there, I moved to Westchester for a little while, then back into New York City, and now in my current role as a director up here in Boston. So that's my spiel. I'll turn it over to Stiven.
So, hey all, I'm Stiven Hunter. I'm currently an operations support manager, specifically for the WeWork account. I'm sure all you guys know, might have heard of WeWork. It was a new account startup for us, so it was kind of something new for us to kind of engage in. I've been with ABN for 3 years now. I started off basically as an operations admin under Al Hody's branch. I was doing that for 2 years before this position opened up for me. WeWork is currently in about 28 of the cities that we're actually in. So we're responsible for about $73 million worth of business annually. We're in cities like San Francisco, Seattle, Boston, where Larry's currently located. And my position is basically to support the director of operations, a lot of contract management, and being that intermediary between the client and our market level operations managers. So yeah, I graduated Oneonta in 2017. Shortly, I actually interned for ABM the summer of 2016 as well. Shortly after graduation, I started, and the rest is history. Yeah.
Awesome. So, Maria, do you want to, I don't know if we're going to be able to display that PowerPoint, but if not, we can just keep it.
Sorry, I was having trouble unmuting my microphone, so sorry for the awkward silence.
No problem.
Everybody's like, okay, now what? I apologize. Do you have something that you wanted to try to pull up, Maria?
Sure.
Okay. And while we're doing that, just so that we don't have any more awkward silence, I guess. Oh, good. We don't even have to worry about that. Look, she's got it going. All right.
Not my first Zoom, folks. All right, so just wanted to give you a little bit of background about ABM. You may have had a chance to hear Scott speak at your school. I know he's very engaged with the school and does a lot of work with Oneonta. So you may already be familiar. If you're not, just give us a few minutes to kind of run through what we do.
We're doing that too.
So one of the things that is really important to ABM is to really focus on why we do what we do, right? I think every company that is in business has to answer that question. And it's not just to make money, right? That's the outcome of what your business does. But it's really important for us to understand why ABM is in business. And, you know, these are our purpose, vision, and mission statements. It's really important that you understand that our mission really drives what we do, who we are, and that really is to make a difference every person, every day. And we rebranded a few years ago with in 2015, we had a 2020 vision, right? So we're in 2020 now. And it was Scott's personal mission that he wanted every employee to be able to recognize and say our mission statement. So it's in our signatures, it's in everywhere you can look, to make a difference every person, every day. And that's really something that we strive for and really live our days, day to day for. And then how do we do it? We do it through our core values. We have 6 core values that we hold really dear to ourselves, through the people that do our work, right? So, you know, we have over 140,000 employees, and the work that has to get done isn't going to get done just by myself, Larry, and Steven, right? It takes all of our employees to do the work that gets done. And then through the ABM way, which is really consistent processes. And what's really interesting is the last couple of years, we realized that, you know, ABM was working very siloed and not as collaborative as we should have. And so because of that, we had different ways that we handled our business. And so we really made it a focus to prioritize and to uniform our processes. And then where do we do it? We have different industry groups that we support. So aviation, business and industry, which is where Larry and Steven work out of, education, technology and manufacturing, and our technical solutions. And then what we do. So that's the service that we provide, right? The janitorial work, energy, facilities, engineering, HVAC, electrical and lighting, and parking and transportation. And, you know, day to day, I always hear of another service that we're providing. So it's never, you know, we really don't want to box ourselves into, you know, a service that maybe we're really good at, but we always want to do right by our customer and see if we can support them. So I will let Steven take on the next slide.
All right, so just like a brief history about the company, ABM was founded in 1909 by Morris Rosenberg in San Francisco. It actually started as a single person window washing company, a fun fact. So we've been in the services industry for like 100 years now. Since then, through growth and a few acquisitions, ABM was able to transform into a $1 billion integrated facility services company. Currently, we have over 20,000 clients, and as Maria said earlier, we employ over 140,000 people, roughly. That's between the U.S., Canada, and the U.K., not just the Americas. So I bet you guys are all, you know, wondering, you know, what exactly does ABM do? As you see on the bottom of the slide here, a decent list of services that we do provide, you know, everywhere from engineering, parking and transportation, landscape, and turf maintenance. So just to engage you guys, a few of ABM's accounts that you guys might be familiar with, or you've even maybe visited, are the 9/11 Memorial in downtown Manhattan, Terminal 4 in JFK, Airport, Staples Center in LA, and Google's campus in Mountain View, California. So whether you've visited these places or heard of them, you know, most people don't really stop to think, well, who's maintaining them? Who's taking care of the cleaning, you know, who's running the HVAC, who's taking care of the lighting. And that's where ABM really comes into play. We play a very critical role in the operation and making sure everything is, you know, ticking and talking and the wheels are spinning. It's our responsibility to make sure that people are enjoying the space, feel comfortable, and most importantly, they feel safe within those spaces. And as you guys are all aware, we're in the middle of a pandemic right now, COVID-19, unfortunately. And believe it or not, ABM is a key component and a key factor in making sure, you know, employees in buildings are feeling safe. And we're planning on, you know, building out a plan to make them feel safe and comfortable returning back to work. So I'll actually let Larry touch up on that a little bit.
Thanks, Stephen. So we did want to talk about, obviously, the pandemic, right? Everyone's dealing with it. That's why we're on this Zoom call and not in person or in an office in New York City or Boston or somewhere else, right? So we have developed and we've invested a lot of money, ABM's money, into creating a program. And the purpose of the program is really to ensure that we are delivering a disinfecting process that not only is backed by experts and checks those boxes, but also really provides some very standard operating procedures so that the employees and our clients feel safe returning back to work, right? So ABM wants to get all these employees and get everyone back into these buildings that are running with such low occupancy, and the occupancy is shockingly low. I mean, I was at a site yesterday, and I think usually they have about 400 to 500 employees in that location. I think I saw 6 while I was there, and I walked pretty much the entire facility. So it's a shame to see how little occupancy there is, but believe it or not, things are ticking back up, and programs like this is what really is going to get people back into these buildings and back into schools, back into sporting events. Our sports and entertainment business is huge, and we actually, the new stadium in Los Angeles is one of our clients. So we helped, you know, getting that facility ready for opening. Obviously, we would have liked it, you know, jam-packed with 60,000 people, but unfortunately, that's not the case, at least not right now, right? So this is something that we're highly invested in, and I think our CEO said it best when he said, you know, what 9/11 did to the securities industry, COVID-19 is going to do to the janitorial and facilities industry. So we're going from kind of those people that you didn't see or you didn't really want to see, you know, clients didn't want to see us. We would do it after hours. We'd be cleaning after hours to now being a visible presence. So the shift to being not only visible, but having a specific program that's going to really provide that safe space is of paramount importance. And we just wanted to bring that up to you guys so you can see how ABM now is thrown to the forefront of this battle. And we're on the front lines too. You know, our employees haven't stopped working. I'll give you one more example and then we can move on to something else. But we do the MBTA, which is the transit authority up here in Boston. So in the beginning of the pandemic, the transportation authority said we're going to start reducing the amount of trains, but we'll never reduce it completely because those essential workers, you know, the doctors, the nurses, EMTs, people need to be able to get around, and that public transportation needs to be there. So we sprung into action and actually provided the MBTA with not only additional hours to help with disinfecting services, but also the disinfectant itself, and making sure that we had enough of a supply that we wouldn't run out, because that's been a concern too. Everyone was trying to buy the same products at the same time, and ABM was able to really talk to our suppliers and get those products for these key clients. And it was done on an allocation basis, right? So we have a healthcare industry as well that's doing stuff for hospitals, so they had priority. But something like the MBTA, which is a transit authority, becomes a priority too, because people need to be able to move around, right? And then if you guys are familiar with the Underground in the UK, that's another one of our clients. And we do all the TfL. So that's another example of something that you guys are all probably familiar with, and what ABM is doing to keep people working and get people back to work, and making sure that we can really improve that health and wellness for all. So that's what I have on the Enhanced Clean program. So I think I guess I can start, and then I'll turn it back over to Stephen and Maria, but just to talk a little bit more about my history and how I got to where I am, right? So I was a business economics major, and I had a concentration in finance. I don't know if there's any finance majors or concentration majors on this call. I see Ryan, you're raising your hand. Okay, so there's one. Are you a senior or a junior, Ryan? Or neither?
I'm a senior.
You're a senior. Okay, so you're getting ready to get into the workforce. That's great. So I don't know if you took a senior seminar yet, or you're enrolled in that, but that's a tough class.
Yeah, senior seminar would be next semester.
Next semester, yeah.
Yeah. Taking some pretty hard courses like international finance and investment management and stuff like that. So.
Yep.
Yeah.
All good stuff. So I had that background in finance. I ended up getting my first job working, like I said, with the controller of the company, and I was basically an admin for him, right? So I was doing odds and ends, and it was a pretty low, standard entry level position, right? There wasn't much about it that, you know, I wasn't going in as a staff accountant or going in as an analyst. You know, I was listed as just an admin assistant. I think that was my original title, but I was working on the finance team, and I think the biggest thing that really helped me advance is getting familiar with Excel. Being able to manipulate numbers and data faster than other people, because when someone looks at you of you know what you bring to the table, if you can do the same thing that someone else is doing in a shorter period of time, that's going to set you apart. And then also just being attentive, asking questions, and being willing to work hard. I mean, I remember putting in some very long hours to the point where, you know, at one point Dan at the time was, all right, let's leave. It's time for us both to go, kind of thing. You know, you don't want to be staying after hours if you have nothing to do, but if there's a lot of work to do and you know you're willing to put that work in, work ethic goes a long way. So I mean, those are two things that I think kind of set me apart in the beginning, and then I was lucky enough to move into more of a staff accountant role, and then finally an analyst role over in Westchester, which for me was convenient because I was still, you know, living with my parents, I think, at the time. So my commute went to 5-minute drive instead of the 45-minute commute into the city, and I was able to save some more money and really set me up to succeed, you know, and keep improving. But when I was out in Westchester, you know, very similar, right? It was working closely with the branch manager at the time, the district managers, and just kind of putting my head down and getting what I needed to get done. And then when I was finished, asking if there was something else that I can help with. And the only other thing I'll say in terms of early career, you know, mistakes that I've learned from is don't be afraid to make a mistake if it's not going to affect someone to the level of, you know, someone's going to get fired or you're doing something that's wrong, right? If you take a chance and you kind of say, all right, I think this is the right way to do it, let me get it to there. And if you want to get a final approval before you submit it or before you send it out to a client, of course you could do that, but be prepared to have that conversation. Have some confidence in what you think is the right thing to do, because you take initiative and you kind of put that out in front of your boss or your manager. They're going to like that. They're going to respect that. They're going to appreciate that you're taking that initiative and kind of moving that needle along. Yeah, and then from there, I went back into New York City as a district manager. Then I was promoted to a senior branch manager in New York City. And then they came to me if I wanted to relocate to Boston. And my wife and I decided to do that. So we've been here. I've only been up a little bit over a year, August of 2019, when I started this current role that I'm in. But you know, ABM's been great. I think that one thing that we do real well is we always try to identify people that have the ability to succeed and try and promote from within. I think, you know, I'm a living testament to that. I think Stiven is as well, Maria as well. You know, we've all been in different roles and been able to grow into what we want to grow into our strengths, right? The accounting side and the finance side wasn't something I wanted to stay into, and I was able to kind of shift out of that into that operations role, and you kind of never look back, right? So that's my story. That's how I got here. That's how I'm doing what I'm doing right now. So I'll turn it over to Stiven if you want to go next and kind of give a little bit more.
Yeah, definitely. So yeah, similar to Larry, actually had a similar upbringing. Went to Oneonta. I studied business economics. Didn't have a concentration in finance though. I see Professor McAvoy in here, and Professor Flynn. Those are both my professors at the time. Learned a lot from them and enjoyed, learning from them as well. Very helpful. Yeah, when I was in college, I had a very narrow focus. I thought I wanted to go into some type of finance or banking world because, that's what you're surrounded by when you're in that specific major. You don't really know what other opportunities are really out there. And, luckily I was able to be a part of the Backpacks Briefcases in 2016 or 2015 it was. And that led me to meet, a number of different companies that I was unfamiliar with. One of them was actually ABM. I actually met Larry there, and another Oneonta alumni at the time who's no longer with the company. But anyway, they were recruiting for the internship position for the summer of 2016. I was lucky enough to be one of the 7 or 8 Oneonta candidates they had to interview. I did go first. So I think I made a pretty solid impression. I don't know, Maria, Larry, correct me if I'm wrong.
You better check your facts, Stiven, because I hired you for the internship program. Well, it wasn't another alumni. It was me and Larry there.
No, I met Kimberly McConaughey.
Oh, okay.
At the time.
Sorry, did you hear that? I thought he was about to go there.
I know.
No. I should have specified. But yes, Maria and Larry came to interview me. And they hired me for the internship program. I enjoyed it. It was really hands-on. You got to learn the ins and outs of operations. And again, ABM is a company you don't really see. So this is the first time I really got to understand and learn what they were about. And from there, I was really set on, going into the, property management or facilities management or, the janitorial company like they were doing. I got lucky enough to get an offer from Maria my senior year. So I was really looking forward to that. I started in the New York City office as basically an admin similar to Larry. A lot of financial accounting work, a lot of administrative tasks that you had to do, but it allowed me to get to where I wanted to be within the company. I saw what the DMs were doing at the time. I thought I could do that eventually, but obviously I had to learn the basics. So it was a lot of, tedious work, but it put me closer in a better position to where I wanted to be. So back to what Larry was saying, take initiative, show you're hungry. No matter what point in the career you are, I think it is more detrimental in the beginning of your career to show that initiative. Don't be afraid to ask questions. And most importantly, like you said, don't be afraid to fail because you are going to fail at some point or the other. You got to own up to it and you just kind of got to accept it. It's all a learning experience. But yeah, through that time, I was in that admin role for about 1.5 years, 2 years. WeWork came about. We already had it on a smaller scale in New York City. We had like a handful of buildings that we were currently doing. And then it had the potential to grow into something bigger on a more national scale. It was a long battle. We actually, before the contract was actually, settled and ratified, I was put in a position as the support manager, technically a promotion. And I got exposed to a different side of the business and it kind of grew me into where I am today. And it's definitely set me up for the future success, but it put me in front of some key, clients that we have. They were able to see, what I'm capable of. Higher ups in my company were able to see what I'm capable of. And, when you have that exposure, it goes a long way. But yeah, as far as, college advice I have, use your resources, that you have made available to you there. There's a very big student association program that does these type of things. Like definitely use them, network with your alumni. I'll definitely leave my contact information with, Danielle after this, if you guys ever have any questions, but don't be afraid to network, use your resources. And, for those that are, junior, senior year, definitely start that job search now. Freshman, sophomore, it doesn't hurt, but your decision can change. You might want to change industries or major between now and your junior year. So, but it doesn't hurt to get a head start on that. But those are my 2 cents. And, I guess I'll pass it on to Maria or whoever's up.
Yeah, I think I'll just add the roles that I've been in with ABM, they've only been in my path because I showed that I was eager to advance, right? And I remember my first role, I was a coordinator in human resources. And I remember after a year, just under a year, I was just like, nope, I can do more. Who do I need to talk to? And I went to our HR president and I just said, you've got to give me more. I can do more. Like I'm wasted here. And he loved that. And so he really just said, okay. And so that's really how the progression of my career went as well. Don't be afraid to be vocal about what it is that you're looking for. And as new folks coming into the workforce, or as you apply for your internships, my biggest advice is practice interviewing. Okay, don't just worry about, oh, what's my greatest strength, or what's my, whatever, my weakness or my opportunity to learn, because we don't like that word weakness. But what is it, just practice having these conversations with new people, because the more you talk about yourself and getting comfortable with it, the more comfortable and fluid you are during your interview process. And I will say this, because I did recruiting for ABM, and I had hired Larry in that role, and Larry and I hired Stiven. And so the one thing that I remember in Stiven, and we talk about it still, in his interview, was he came very confident versus the other students that I met. And I can tell he was nervous, because you could tell when you meet someone that maybe they're a bit nervous and, kind of working it out. But he gave such great answers that when he left, Larry and I kind of looked at each other like, yeah, he's in, like we just knew, like, because he was, you're all in Oneonta because you can do the work, right? You wouldn't be advancing into the different grade levels if you couldn't do the work. So you're smart, right? You're capable. But he was hungry, and you can tell that. And so that's really my biggest advice. Be hungry, practice, so that, you come off more fluid. And it's you'll be amazed at how far that really gets you.
And Maria, also just one more thing, just to your point, make sure that you research the company you're interviewing for, because if you have some background knowledge, it shows you care, right? If you don't know what the company does, I've had someone who interviewed real well, and then I asked that person, that candidate, I said, do you know what ABM does? What's our biggest driver? Which industry group, or I don't remember how I asked the question, and the candidate had no idea. So I didn't even move forward with that candidate after that, just because that just shows me that you're not going to put in the work, and you're not going to do that legwork before you go to something. Preparedness is huge, right? It's not just being prepared on the actual interview itself, but understand what the company does that you're interviewing, so you can better answer questions, right, that come up, and that you have the knowledge. And it doesn't have to be anything crazy, but just go on the website, look us up, look at how the stock did, how is the performance, what's the market cap, some general pieces of information, and then what that main book of business really is, what's driving our numbers. Obviously right now, like I said before, with the pandemic, the janitorial business is booming, right? I mean, that's basically everything, and everything we're doing has to do with disinfecting. But the HVAC is also, right, because everyone wants to have clean air, and the filters need to be changed more frequently. So there's more than one thing that's going to drive the numbers and drive results. But it's important to really understand what that company does, what's the day-to-day, and then what your thoughts are on it, and ask questions too. I mean, that's also something that we like to hear, right? If you have a question about what the ABM does in a certain market, or what's our biggest client, whatever it is, that would be a question you can ask. There's no problem with asking questions on an interview. It's as much of an interview for you as it is for the employer. Remember that. It's got to be a good fit for both of you. Mm-hmm. I just wanted to add that. And I guess we can open it up to questions, or Danielle, if you have something else.
Yeah, I was just going to say that's a great segue to if the students have questions. So if you have questions, feel free to kind of wave your hand or do the thumbs up reaction, and we will make sure we don't all talk at once. Oh, Jessica, please go ahead.
Yeah, I'll start us off. So Maria, you actually kind of already touched on this, but you mentioned how job hopping has increased exponentially, especially with the waves of new grads. It just keeps increasing and increasing. What do you think is special about ABM that keeps employees loyal?
So I always say it's the people. The moment that you come into our office, you start already feeling the vibe, right? You hear conversations between coworkers, and it's about business, but it's also comfortable, right? It's not a in the world is a I know that it's a very dog eat dog type of world, right? And so you think that that's every corporation. And you'll realize that ABM is not that. Like, we work hard, we work really hard, but we're also human and at our core people. And so we understand that. So we drive like that human element into all of the work that we do. And so I think that that's the reason why we really take to the leaders of our company, where like even Scott, and for those of you who have had a chance to meet him, like, he's probably the most low-key person, CEO, that I could ever, hope to meet. Like, he's just very chill. And during this time, he's been sending videos of himself, right, and speaking to the team. And you'll see, like, pictures of, he's really big into music, so he's got like boards of like the concerts that he's been into, and he's like, guys, have you noticed I went to this like, he just makes it fun, right? And so you relate to that, and that makes you want to be part of this team, right? And then you get these great opportunities that this team gives you.
Thank you.
Yeah, great question.
Anyone else? Isabel, do you have a question? It looked like you lit up. So, oh, Ryan, you go ahead.
So I know you guys were talking about other companies having problems with their workforce and the COVID pandemic. How did you guys handle your workforce? And do you have any challenges getting people out into the field with what's going on and having them be afraid of everything that is happening in today's day and age?
That's a good question, Ryan, and I'll take that. So we had to make some hard decisions, just like every other company, right? When things shut down, there's less work for people to do. So there was a large percentage of our workforce, mainly our on-site staff, that was either furloughed or put on some sort of a leave. We also had the other side of the coin, which was that additional work that was happening. So we try to relocate our people as much as possible. Okay, this client is closing down their building, but this client is going to remain open. Amazon is one of our largest, I think it is our now largest client in the country. Obviously, Amazon did not slow down. They did the opposite. So what did we do? We had to ramp up as well. So that happened. On the salaried side, there were some concessions made by some higher net worth individuals or executive management, right, where people took pay cuts. It was, the good news is the pay cuts are done for on the management side, because that affects me as well. But so yeah, people took pay cuts. Our CEO, a lot of our leaders took pay cuts, and it was kind of a standard percentage reduction that everyone took. But now we're actually on the other side of it, right? I think as long as there's no more huge breakouts or the numbers don't start going up ridiculously, I think we've kind of passed that and kind of stabilized to our current run rate. We're actually having more issues, and especially in some hard to staff areas, New Hampshire, for instance, for me, or Oneonta, Binghamton, upstate New York, it's a hard area to staff. We're having some problems getting people to come back to work. And some of that, we had to do some hazard pay or increase our pay rate, our hourly wage rate, right, to attract people to come back to work. And then you also have the stimulus plan and some of the, some of what the government is doing for assistance, right? So some people are making more money or close to what they would be making working, but they are staying home. So that's something that's a challenge as well. So we're dealing with that on both ends, not only the fear of people going back to work and the fear of the virus, but the stimulus plans and everything that these would-be employees are getting to stay home. So how do you motivate them to get back to work? And that's something, you know, not to get too political, that's going on right now, right? There's a give and take. There's, I think, a $2.4 trillion stimulus plan that's going to the House again at some point soon. So we're monitoring all that too, because that's going to affect our workforce. And our biggest expense, and the only way we make money, is with our people. You know, we're a service provider. So it's not like we can just produce more and sell more. It's, hey, we need these bodies to be at work working. So it's definitely a huge concern, and it's a challenge, and it's been a challenge. In union markets, it's not as prominent, but even there, you know, like New York City, for instance, the Building Operators Association over there, the Building Owners Association, made a deal with the local union and ABM and worked something out to keep people whole. But you can only do these things for so long without having income, you know, revenue coming back in. So that's another thing that they're dealing with now. So people are still kind of getting laid off just because they were made whole for a while during that time. But, you know, 6-7 months into the pandemic with no clear end in sight, things change. And now you have to, you know, redo all your buildings, all the staffing based on your current run rate, and kind of go from there. And, you know, we're hoping that a vaccine comes out soon and all these things happen that'll get people back to work, and we're doing our part to get people back to work. But that's a great question, and that's definitely been a huge challenge for us.
Thank you.
Kyle, it looks like you have a question. You can go next.
Hi, thank you. So Jessica was asking earlier what sets apart your company from everybody else, and Maria made it sound like there's a great work culture when you're there. So how are you able to keep a great work culture when everything was online and when we were in the middle of a global pandemic for 6 months?
I guess I'll answer that one. Good question, Kyle. So basically, everything transferred from in-person to, you know, Zoom meetings, Microsoft Teams meetings. And, you know, at first that was a bit of a challenge because what we do is very engaging, whether it's internal or external. So it was trying to stay positive, weekly check-ins with our teams, just catching up, you know, sometimes not even about work, just, you know, how the family's doing, even a little bit more interpersonal stuff than you're usually used to talking about. That kind of kept the bond there, and just kind of regular check-ins. And then eventually as stuff started to lighten up, you know, some people started returning into the office, obviously not at the same capacity that they were used to, but, you know, seeing someone or someone you've worked with for the first time in 3 to 4 months, you know, it's kind of a breath of fresh air after staying at home, working from home for a long time. So it had its perks, to be honest with you, but at first it was a bit of a interesting transition. I'm not going to lie to you, but we made it work. And like I said, just kind of casual check-ins, more phone calls and meetings than you're used to doing, but they were meaningful at the same time. Like I said, it wasn't always just work. It was kind of just a little bit more personal than usual.
Yeah, Steven, that's a good point too. And we also implemented on a senior level, they implemented these pod calls. So so my boss is, he's the senior vice president. So he manages the Northeast and the Great Lakes. So him and his direct reports, we would get on a call. It was on a daily basis in the morning, and it was kind of just an open forum. What's going on? What do you need help with? What are the problems? Then we would loop in specific back office and back office people, such as like our procurement team or our finance team. You know, cash flow became a huge concern, so it was checking in on payments. Our AR got added into these calls, so it was a combination of casual check-ins, and then we, you know, to Steven's point, I mean, I would talk to some of the other VPs and directors and just have a conversation with them, just a random conversation with them, just, hey, how you doing, just checking in. And then with my team members specifically, a lot of our team members were still working throughout the entire pandemic, right? So they were still going into the office. I mean, my office here in Boston, we have our warehouse is actually underneath our office. So we were still, accepting deliveries. Our team members were still going to sites to perform services. So it was never a complete shutdown. So there was always some face-to-face interaction, but it did become a structured thing with the pod calls that we were going to be checking in on a daily basis and we're reviewing everything and then just having those conversations as much as possible. And you got to remember too, Kyle, everywhere, every company, every single employee was affected by this, right? There was not one industry that wasn't affected by this. So it was a lot of learning, and I think everyone kind of learned from each other, right? So it was March and April was very difficult. I mean, there was a lot going on, and it was consistent too. Sometimes we would get on calls all 7 days of the week, right? It was to that point, but we got through it, and we're glad that we're getting back to work. I mean, I'm actually working from home today, but I'll go into the office. The good news for me in my office is we have kind of the older style offices where it's not that open floor plan that everyone's used to, that Steven's probably in one of the conference rooms in New York City right now. So he's by himself, but if he stepped out, it would be a huge open space with no one in it. And we are lucky enough that we have that older style office where I can be in my office, I can close my door, and I'm in my own space. And so is everyone else, right? So you can still work safely and still be in the same space together, which is nice. So that's definitely happening. People are going into work, and it's I think that flexible work schedule is going to maintain. We're going to maintain that. It's not going to change. I don't think that's going to go anywhere. So I think that's going to be the new norm. But we do need interaction, collaboration. Those things are never going to go away. So office space will always be needed, in my opinion, at least.
Thank you.
So it looks like we have a couple minutes. I'm sure that our alumni have other busy things to do after 2 o'clock. So we might have time for maybe one more question. If anybody has any parting dire need to ask one. Oh, Jessica, go ahead.
Yeah, so I'm curious, was there any difficulty in allocating resources with COVID-19 hotspots emerging so quickly? Like, I believe there's an ABM office in Troy and Colony, like where I'm from in the capital region. And I know like their hotspots were nothing compared to the ones in New York City. So like, how did you effectively manage that?
Yeah, so I think you also have to look at it in terms of density, right? So that's definitely the case, right? So the Albany region, that capital area, that's under me, right? That's part of my region. I'm not dealing with anything in New York City anymore, but you also have a lot more support staff in New York City than you do in Albany. So it kind of, in any major city that applies to, right? So the density of a major city is going to always have more issues, but there's also more support, and there's usually a bigger labor pool that you can pull from. So that kind of makes it easier. But I don't know if Steven has anything, since he was in New York specifically, of how they dealt with the breakouts. But in Albany and the other areas, I mean, we just did what we had to do with who we had. But again, it wasn't as big of a problem because there wasn't as many people. So it all kind of corresponds with density and population and the size of the accounts themselves.
Yeah, it was a big issue in New York City when the first breakout happened, the hotspots, specifically for the public transportation. They put curfews on it, and at the time, a lot of our workers, they were working second shift, which starts after 5 p.m. So it was a lot of adjustments at the time, but we had all the support. We have, plenty of buildings in Manhattan, commercial buildings, where we have like on-site supervisors and managers that were able to lend a helping hand, lend some extra employees where needed, and accommodate for those kind of one-offs that happened. But yeah, that's how New York City dealt with it. It was a challenge, but we made it happen. It was fairly effective. But
Thank you both.
yeah.
Okay. Well, as I think it was Steven, and we can confirm with Maria and Larry whether it's okay to share your contact information if students have any questions after the fact or want to make follow-up. So if you want to just shoot me an email and confirm whether or not that's okay, or if you have a specific email, sometimes alumni want to use a specific email for SUNY Oneonta students. I would encourage you, if you reach out to the alumni, put something in your subject line like SUNY Oneonta. So, they probably get hundreds of emails a day. So that kind of helps them say, oh, that's a SUNY Oneonta student that I'm going to reach out to and help. So with that, I want to say thank you once again to our alumni and Maria, and thank you to the School of Economics and Business. And I hope we will see you all at the next Backpacks to Briefcases at 1 o'clock next Friday, hopefully with no tech difficulties this time. Thank you all.
Thank you guys
Thank you
for
very
being
much.
here.
Thanks,
Thank you.
guys.
Thank you.
Enjoy the rest of the school year. Good luck.